Welcome back, everyone. I'm Sophia. And as always, I'm sitting here with my favorite person to talk to, Alex.
Hey, Sophia. Hey, everyone. I'm already on my second coffee today. So if I talk too fast, or if I say something completely ridiculous, just blame the caffeine.
Second coffee? Alex, it is barely 10 in the morning. We need to have a serious talk about your morning routine.
It's not just a routine, Sophia. It's a survival mechanism. You know how it is when you work from home. You wake up, you open your laptop, and suddenly you realize you haven't spoken to another human being in 3 days. Except for the delivery guy. Coffee is my only connection to the outside world.
That is actually a little bit sad, but I completely understand. I think a lot of people listening right now are nodding their heads. The remote work life is great, but it can get pretty quiet. So, what kind of coffee are we talking about here? Are we doing the quick instant stuff? Or are you going full hipster with the grinder and the scale?
Oh, definitely not instant. I went through my instant phase in college, and I refused to go back. Now, I'm doing pour over. I bought this whole setup. It's ridiculous. Honestly, I spend 15 minutes just boiling the water to the exact right temperature.
15 minutes? Alex, you were telling me you spend 15 minutes making coffee before you even start your workday?
Well, it's a mindfulness thing, right? You read all these articles about productivity. They say you need a morning ritual to set the tone for the day. So I'm just setting the tone. With caffeine.
I love that. I really do. But I have to ask, does the 15-minute coffee ritual actually make you more productive? Or are you just procrastinating before you have to look at your emails?
Sophia, that is a very aggressive question for a Tuesday morning. But honestly, a little bit of both. I think the ritual is nice, but then I sit down at my desk and I just stare at the screen. And then I realize my internet is acting up, or my cat has decided to sleep on my keyboard, and the whole productivity thing goes out the window.
The cat on the keyboard is a classic remote work hazard. You can't fight it. You just have to accept that the cat is now your co-worker.
Exactly. His name is Barnaby, and he has zero respect for my professional boundaries. Last week, I was in a very serious video call with a new client. We were talking about the budget for a new project. Very high stakes. And Barnaby just jumps up, walks across the keys, and suddenly my background filter turns off, and the client gets a full view of my messy living room.
Oh no. Please tell me you didn't have laundry in the background.
I had a mountain of laundry and a half-eaten sandwich on the desk.
Alex, why didn't you just turn the camera off?
I panicked. My brain just stopped working. I tried to smile and say, "As you can see, we are very transparent in our business."
No way. You actually said that?
I said it, and the client just stared at me for 3 seconds. I thought he was going to end the call right there. But then he started laughing. He said, "I appreciate the honesty. Alex, my dog is currently chewing on my shoe under the desk."
See? That's the beauty of remote work. We are all just pretending to have our lives together. But behind the camera, it's just chaos.
It's true. But it's still stressful. Because even though we are all humans with messy rooms and pets, there is still this pressure to sound perfectly professional. To sound like you have everything under control. And that's where I sometimes struggle.
I want to pause right there, because I think this is something a lot of our listeners deal with. The gap between how smart you are in your native language and how you feel when you have to express that intelligence in English during a high stakes meeting.
Yes, exactly. Because in my language, I'm funny. I'm persuasive. I can negotiate. I can make a joke. I can read the room. But in English, sometimes I feel like I'm just translating my personality. And a lot of it gets lost.
That is such a perfect way to describe it. Translating your personality? It's exhausting. You're not just doing the job, you're doing the job while simultaneously filtering your thoughts through a second language.
And the worst part is when you try to use a fancy business idiom to sound more professional, and it completely backfires.
Oh, I love this. Tell me about it. We've all been there. What was the idiom?
So, this was a few months ago. I was leading a presentation for a potential partner. Things were going well, but we started getting bogged down in the details of the contract. It was getting too deep into the weeds, and I wanted to say, let's stop talking about this specific detail for now and move on to the next topic.
Right? So you wanted to table the discussion.
Exactly. I know the phrase table the discussion. I had it in my head. But when it was my turn to speak, my brain just froze. The pressure was on. The client was looking at me, and I just blurted out, I think we should put this on the table.
Oh, Alex? No.
Yeah. And the client just looked at me, completely confused, and said, But Alex, we have been putting it on the table for an hour. What else do you want to discuss?
Because put it on the table means let's discuss it right now. It means let's be open about it. But table it means let's postpone it.
I know that now, but in that moment, I was sweating. I tried to recover. I said, No, I mean, let's put a pin in it.
Okay. Put a pin in it is good. That works.
But then I panicked again and said, Let's put a pencil in it.
Alex, why did you change it to a pencil?
I don't know. My brain just thought, well, a pencil is erasable. So maybe it means we can change it later? I was just making things up in real time. The client was so confused he just said, Okay, let's take a 5-minute break.
I'm crying. I'm actually crying laughing right now. That is amazing. And also, a perfect example of why idioms are so dangerous when you are nervous.
It's a nightmare, because you think you're being professional, but you actually sound like a child who just discovered office supplies.
But here is the thing. Alex, the client didn't fire you. He took a break. You probably clarified it when you came back. And you moved on. The fear we have of making these mistakes is always so much worse than the actual mistake.
It feels worse in the moment. You feel like everyone is judging your English instead of listening to your ideas.
They aren't. I promise you, they aren't. When I first started teaching online, I had a student who asked me what the difference was between affect and effect. And I completely blanked. I just stared at him and said, Well, one is a verb, and one is a noun. But I honestly can't remember which is which right now.
You did that? You're an English teacher.
I was a new English teacher, and I was terrified. But the student just laughed and said, "Don't worry. I forget it in my language too." It broke the tension immediately. People connect with humanity. Alex, they don't connect with a perfectly programmed robot.
I wish I could remember that when I'm in a meeting. I just get so focused on not making a grammar mistake that I forget to actually communicate.
That is the ultimate goal. Though, to shift the focus from the language to the message. When you're in a meeting, your job isn't to speak perfect English. Your job is to solve the problem, negotiate the deal, or share your expertise. The English is just the tool.
The tool. I like that. But sometimes the tool feels like it's heavy and rusty.
It gets sharper with use. And honestly, some of those mistakes you make can actually be great conversation starters. Like your pencil thing? If you owned it, you could say, "Look, I'm so focused on the big picture that I'm inventing new idioms. Let's just put a pin in this and move to the marketing budget."
See, that sounds so smooth when you say it.
It's all about confidence. And since we are talking about remote work and professional communication, I want to try something with you. A little role play. Just to practice setting boundaries. Because I know that's a big challenge for you in English.
Oh, setting boundaries. My favorite thing to do. Said no one ever.
Exactly. It's so much harder to say no in a second language because you want to be polite. And you worry that saying no directly sounds rude? So, I'm going to play your client. I'm going to email you on a Friday afternoon at 4:30, asking you to completely redo a report by Monday morning. Which is impossible. I want you to tell me no. But keep it professional. Ready?
Okay. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Here we go. Hi, Alex. Great work on the initial draft. However, I've looked at the numbers and I think we need to completely change the strategy. Can you rewrite the whole thing and have it to me by Monday at 9 a.m.? Thanks. Go.
Hi, Sophia. Hi, client. I received your email. I understand you want to change the strategy. But Monday is not possible. I have other things to do this weekend. So I will do it next week.
Okay. Let's pause. That was very direct. And honestly, a little bit too blunt for a client who pays your bills. You said? Monday is not possible. I have other things to do. In English, that sounds a bit like, I don't care about your problem. I'm busy.
Really? I was just trying to be honest. In my culture, if you say you are busy, people understand.
I get that. But in American business culture, we like to soften the blow. We use what I call the cushion. You start with something positive or understanding. Then you give the bad news. And then you offer an alternative. Let's try it again. Start with the cushion.
Okay. Cushion. Hi, Sophia. Thanks for the feedback. I'm glad you reviewed the draft.
Good. Now, the bad news. But make it about the timeline, not about your weekend plans.
However, rewriting the entire strategy by Monday morning is not feasible. I need more time to ensure the new numbers are accurate.
Perfect. Not feasible is a great professional phrase. It sounds much better than not possible. Now, the alternative. Give her a new deadline.
I can have the revised version to you by Wednesday at 5 p.m. Does that work for your timeline?
Yes, that is brilliant. Alex, do you hear how professional that sounded? You didn't apologize for having a weekend. You just stated the reality and offered a solution.
It feels a little bit like a script. Though, like I'm reading from a textbook.
It feels like a script now because we are practicing. But once you use these phrases a few times, they become muscle memory. You won't have to think about the grammar. You'll just know the pattern. Cushion. Reality. Alternative.
Cushion. Reality. Alternative. I like that. It's a good framework. But what if the client pushes back? What if she says, "No, I really need it by Monday. It's an emergency?"
Then you hold your boundary. You say, I understand it's urgent. I can send you the raw data by Monday so your team can start looking at it. But the full strategic rewrite will be ready Wednesday. You are still helping, but you are not breaking your own limits.
That makes sense. It's just hard not to feel guilty. When you're working remotely, you feel like you have to prove you are actually working. So when a client asks for something crazy, your first instinct is just to say yes, so they know you are dedicated.
Oh, the remote work guilt? It is so real. You feel like if you aren't answering emails at 8 p.m., people will think you are slacking off.
Exactly. And when you add the language barrier to it, you feel like you have to work twice as hard just to prove you understand the assignment.
That is a heavy burden to carry. Alex, and I want to talk about that for a second, because I think a lot of our listeners are feeling this right now. The idea that your worth as a professional is tied to how perfectly you speak English.
Yes. It's like I have imposter syndrome, but it's specifically about my language. I sit in meetings, and I hear my native colleagues speaking so fast, using all these slang terms and idioms. And I just sit there nodding. I'm terrified someone will ask me a question and I'll freeze.
Have you ever actually frozen in a meeting? Like, completely lost your words?
Once, it was a big team meeting. My manager was talking about a new software rollout. He asked me, "Alex, what do you think about the user interface?" And my mind just went blank. I knew what I thought. I thought it was too complicated. But the English words just vanished. So I said, "It is very blue."
You said it was blue?
It was blue. The interface was literally blue. It was the only adjective my brain could produce.
Oh, Alex. What did your manager say?
He just blinked and said, "Yes, the design team chose a nice shade of blue. But what about the navigation?" And I just said, "Yes, the navigation is also blue."
No, you didn't.
I did. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. I was so embarrassed. I spent the next 3 hours writing down every word I should have said. It's counterintuitive. It's cluttered. The user journey is confusing. I knew all those words, but in the moment, they were locked in a vault in my brain.
That is the classic fight, flight, or freeze response. Your brain perceived a threat, speaking in front of a group in a second language, and it just shut down the language center to protect you. It's not a reflection of your intelligence, Alex. It's a biological reaction to stress.
It feels like a reflection of my intelligence, because I know the answers. I'm good at my job, but I can't prove it in those moments.
I know, and it's incredibly frustrating. But here's what I want you to realize. You are judging yourself by a standard that doesn't exist. You are comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. You hear your native colleagues speaking fluently, but you don't see the times they stumbled over their words, or the times they had to ask someone to repeat themselves.
That's true. I do notice that my native colleagues sometimes use filler words when they are thinking. They say and like just as much as I do.
Exactly. The difference is, when they say nobody thinks, oh, they aren't smart. They just think, oh, they are thinking. But when you say you think, oh no, my English is bad. You are holding yourself to a different standard.
I never thought about it like that. I am my own harshest critic.
We all are, especially when we are learning. But you have to give yourself some grace. You are operating in a second language in a high-pressure environment. That is impressive. It's not a deficit, it's a massive skill.
Thank you, Sophia. I needed to hear that today. It's just, some days it feels like I'm climbing a mountain with a backpack full of rocks.
So take the rocks out of the backpack. You don't need to carry the guilt. And you don't need to carry the fear of making mistakes. Just carry your expertise.
I like that. Take the rocks out. Okay. So, since we are on the topic of high-pressure moments and remote work disasters, I want to test you, Sophia. Or rather, I want us to do a little game. A rapid-fire scenario game.
Oh, I love games. What are the rules?
I will give you a remote work nightmare scenario. You have to tell me the very first thing you say out loud to fix it. No thinking. Just react.
Okay. I'm ready. Hit me.
Scenario 1. You are in the middle of a presentation, and your internet completely drops. You reconnect 2 minutes later. What do you say?
Well, it looks like the internet gods decided they needed a break. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Let's pick up right where we left off.
Nice. Very casual. Very confident. Scenario 2. You accidentally share your personal browser tabs with the screen, and everyone sees you shopping for dog toys.
As you can see, I am deeply committed to the happiness of my golden retriever. Now, back to the Q3 projections.
Perfect. You own it. Scenario 3. You are on a call, and your neighbor starts using a leaf blower right outside your window. It is incredibly loud.
I would hold up a sign to the camera that says, I live next to a landscaping crew. Bear with me? And then I would just turn on my noise. canceling headphones and keep talking.
See, this is why you are the host. You just adapt. My instinct would be to apologize profusely and say, "I'm so sorry." I'll call them and tell them to stop, which just makes it more awkward.
Exactly. The more you apologize, the more it becomes a problem. If you just acknowledge it and move on, it's just a funny moment.
Okay, last scenario. This is the big one. You are on a call with a very serious, very traditional client, and you completely forget the English word for the main product you are selling. You know what it does? You can describe it, but the noun is gone.
Oh, that is a terrifying feeling. The tip of the tongue phenomenon?
Yes. What do you do?
I describe it. I say, it's the thing we discussed last week. The tool that helps you automate the reporting. And if they still look confused, I just say, I'm sorry. The word is escaping me right now. But you know the one? Honesty is always the best policy. People will wait for you to find the word.
I struggle with that. I feel like if I forget a word, I have failed. So I just stop talking.
Don't stop talking. Circumlocute. That's a great B2 word. By the way, circumlocution. It means talking around a word when you can't remember it.
Circumlocution. I like that. It sounds like a magic spell.
It basically is. It's the magic spell that keeps the conversation flowing when your brain takes a vacation.
I'm going to write that down. Circumlocution. I'm definitely using that in my next meeting. Even if I have to circumlocute the word, circumlocution.
That would be very meta. I'm going to use circumlocution to explain the circumlocution.
Exactly. The thing that is, the talking around the thing.
You see? You're already doing it. You're playing with the language. That's when you know you're really getting comfortable. When you can joke about the limitations of the language?
It's true. A year ago, if I forgot a word, I would just sit in silence and feel my face get hot. Now, I can at least make a joke about my brain freezing. It's progress.
It's massive progress. Alex. And I want our listeners to recognize that in themselves, too. We get so caught up in the destination. Fluency? Perfect grammar. Sounding like a native speaker. That we forget to appreciate the journey. The fact that you can hold a conversation, negotiate a contract, and joke about your mistakes in a second language is incredible.
Thank you, Sophia. It's nice to have it spelled out like that. Sometimes you just need someone to point out that you're actually doing a good job.
Always. We need a little reminder sometimes. So, as we wrap up today's episode, I want to ask you, Alex, what is your takeaway from today? We talked about coffee, remote work disasters, table discussions, and setting boundaries. What's sticking with you?
I think the biggest thing for me is the idea of the cushion. Cushion, reality, alternative. It's such a simple framework, but it makes me feel like I have a tool to handle those stressful client emails without feeling guilty. And also, just remembering that I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be clear.
I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be clear. That is a fantastic mantra. I think we should put that on a T-shirt.
Please don't. I don't want to be responsible for podcast merchandise.
Too late. I'm already designing it in my head. But seriously, Alex, thank you for sharing your stories today. I know it's not always easy to talk about the embarrassing moments, but that's where the real learning happens.
Thanks for having me, Sophia. And thanks for not laughing too hard at my pencil idiom.
I make no promises about the laughing. It was too good. All right? Everyone, that is going to do it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, please leave us a review. Share it with a friend. And remember to be kind to yourself when you're learning. Mistakes are just proof that you're trying.
And if you try to put a pin in it, make sure it's actually a pin and not a pencil.
We will see you all next time. Bye. Alex.
Bye, Sophia.